Warsaw, with Poles demanding jobs and better retirement security. So what happened to an economy that continued to grow right through the recent economic crisis? Well, the first half of 2013 was not what Poles had come to expect. Austerity measures like pension reform took hold. Economic growth ground to a halt. Some taxes and unemployment rose.
In 2012, Poland managed to have an enormous acceleration of the public investments, especially due to Euro Championships that took place in 2012. In 2013, the government has to lower significantly the public expenditures on road construction.
Poland's building boom for the football championships came to an end, but more importantly, consumer spending slowed. Being one of Europe's largest countries, the economy benefited from a growing middle class for the past 20 years. But growth in 2012 was 1.9%, down from the annual rate of 4.5% in 2011. Now, though, the last half of 2013 is looking brighter.
Until the moment, the GDP growth was driven by very strong internal demand. But today's figures are driven surprisingly by a very strong export.
Though Poland is in the European Union, it has stayed out of the Eurozone. Its currency, the zloty, rose in 2012, hurting exports, but now has fallen in value, making its products even cheaper for its biggest trading partner, Germany. Poland benefits from having a well-educated but cheaper labor force. That's why manufacturers like automakers stamp out parts in Poland and ship them to plants in the West.
The key engine for growth is unit labor costs, which are much lower than in Western European countries.
But that makes Poland dependent on outside firms and the fluctuation of currencies. And painful structural reforms are proving politically difficult. Critics say there is not enough money spent on research and development. For instance, Poland still relies on coal for 90% of its energy. Despite calls for massive investment in alternative energies, Poland is falling behind the EU targets for renewables. In general, Poland suffers from a perception it's still an emerging market, which scares off some investors.
But as far as the investment sentiment, I do not see any optimism right now. And this is about Polish investors, but also the same concerns about international.
More than 2 decades.
2013 was worse than expected, but compared to Europe or Eurozone, you say still growth, and it's not as bad as in many countries.
And with Europe growing again, Poland is prized to benefit. Jim Bolden, CNN, London.
Well, take a look at this. It's an army robot that could help fill a dying stomach and a gap in the Chinese labor market. CNN's David McKenzie now meets the new robot, and he filed in this report.
As a chicken farmer, but when a flu virus wiped out his flock, he searched for a new way to make a living. I went into a noodle shop and I saw the noodle maker made more money than me, he says, but I didn't know how to make noodles. So this amateur inventor built something that could. Call it the Noodlebot. With this robot, 1 minute 4 bowls of noodles, he says. With a chef, 1 minute 2 bowls.
So the Noodlebot is fast and it's also versatile. Mr. Sway said he can do 8 different types of noodles. This is the widest kind. He says he invented it to look like a person, to give it that human touch.
They designed it to look like a cartoon so that children like it more.
So if I look at this, it looks a bit like you. You're kind of the same.
It's much more handsome than me, he says. It took Shui 3 months to design the bot and years to perfect it. They ship it across China and around the world.
So the factory floor is one thing, but the real test of the Noodlebot is in the noodle shop. Let's see the Noodlebot in action. Okay.
The customers love it, says Feng Guo. They call him Ultraman.
They call him Ultraman.
But mostly it saves him money. He doesn't need to train, feed, or give the noodlebot a place to sleep. It saves me energy, says the noodle maker. It does the same noodles that I do, and it costs less than me. But as labor costs rise in China, robots are starting to replace human labor. It's cheaper. In the future, the noodlebots could replace all the human noodle makers. Chopping noodles today. But who knows what's next for the noodlebot.
David Mackenzie, CNN, Beijing.
Well, China is the latest country to send rescuers to the Philippines. A foreign ministry spokesman says relief workers from the Chinese Red Cross left on Wednesday and an additional medical team would be sent later this week. It has been 12 days since Typhoon Haiyan hit the Philippines and the extent of the damage is still being assessed. The official death toll continues to rise and now stands at 4,011. Survivors are trying to recover anywhere they can. In one small coastal town, fishermen have torn their damaged refrigerators into boats to replace those destroyed by the typhoon. They have been using these boats to catch enough fish to feed their families. CNN's Carl Penhold tells us more from Tacloban in this report.
There's a multi-track effort going on the ground here right now. One, of course, is to take care of the survivors, and one of the good pieces of news there is that some of those aid bottlenecks now seem to be working out, and we are seeing a lot more aid starting to arrive here in Tacloban and being distributed in an even fashion to survivors. Rations perhaps that may last them for up to 3 days at a time. But of course the other track is that almost 2 weeks after the super typhoon hit, people still haven't recovered their loved ones from under the debris, and we joined an American team that has cadaver dogs out there helping in this work.
It's a grim job, but somebody has to do it.
Help, bring some closure to family and retrieve their loved ones, then it's a good mission.
Black Lab Patella, her handler Jim Hook and rescuer Adam Marlett are part of an American charity.
We're fine.
They hunt for bodies in the wreckage of natural disasters.
Underneath the ship, because it looks like it just smashed everything, and I guess they're one of the guys
Today they're down by Tacloban port. As the super typhoon hit, it whipped up a massive wall of water. This is what's left.
The best way that I could put it would be the collateral damage of the earthquake with the water impact of what happened after the tsunami.
It's been a week and a half since the storm, but recovery efforts are only just beginning.
The locals have estimated over 100 are deceased there.
Patella sniffs out the dead, entombed in the ruins of their homes.
Patella, she started her training from 8 weeks old. She's 4 years old now. You can see the debris, the nails sticking out, there's glass, everything. The dogs learn in their training to watch where they're walking, but still you got to watch for injuries on the dog.
She's soon onto something.
She's pulling scent from over here, she's pulling scent from there.
Police and other volunteers lend a hand.
Now go to push from that side. Pull!
Grudgingly, the debris is giving back lost souls. Since Patella arrived, she's helped find 100 bodies or more. But behind each number, there's a name, there's a family. And it's a grim score that her handlers say they'd really prefer not to keep.
It's definitely gruesome, and it's definitely a rough task. Do you want to pet her? See, she's nice. You can pet her. Yeah.
But however rough, life must go on. Thanks to these cadaver dogs, a few more families will get the chance to say their last goodbye.
And in sports, Medina Football Club have won the 2013 Serekunda East Knockout Trophy after a controversial 1-0 win over Falcons in what was a very entertaining final, watched by thousands of spectators. Momodo S. Jal was among them, and he now reports.
described as the dream final of the 20